All right, so now let's go ahead and talk about useEffect, which is another form of hook in React. So what is our scenario? Well, our scenario is that we want to go to this JSON placeholder, fetch all the data, and then display it on the screen. So how can we do it when we are using hooks? Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to create some sort of a state where we can store all this information that we're fetching. So I'm going to go ahead and create another state. This is a local state, and I will call it task. Not even task, but what are we fetching? Post. So let's call it post. And the function that will be used to update that local state will be called setPost, although you can use any name, but this is a convention. Use state, and then the initial value of post. So what should I put for the initial value of post? What kind of a data are we fetching? Well, we're fetching objects, but if you look at the top over here, we are getting an array of something. So I'm going to put the initial state as an empty array, meaning this post array is completely empty. And I want to load all these posts when this particular component is rendered, meaning, well, not even rendered, but when it is mounted on the virtual DOM. When we mount this, basically component did mount, we want to do that. But if you type in your component did mount, you will not really get that function. And the reason is that these are hooks. If you want to use component did mount and component did update, you have to use it using hooks. And that is the job of another hook called useEffect. So let's see that how we can use useEffect. UseEffect hook is used to load something, to do something when your component is loaded and when your component is updated. So it can perform both of those actions. So we will go ahead and say useEffect, and inside there we will call another function, and over here we can go ahead and do whatever we want. So what do we want to do over here? Well, we want to perform a fetch request, get all the data, put all the posts inside our local state so that we can use it to display it. So fetching is not that hard. We can do that. We need the URL, so let's just copy the URL. Let's do it fetch URL dot then, and you already know we'll get a response back, and then we will say response dot JSON, which is a promise which is going to be evaluated, and then eventually we'll get some sort of a results back, and then we can use this result. So this results will contain all the JSON array of post. And this is something that we can put right over here in our posts using the post function. Set posts, and then passing in the results. All right. Now this can be very, very dangerous. Why it can be dangerous? So what happens is that the useEffect is used for two different things. useEffect is called the first time your app component or any other component is loaded. But useEffect is also called when you update the state. And guess what we are doing? When the first time the component loads, the useEffect is going to call, it's going to fetch, it's going to get the result, it's going to update the state. And what happens when you update the state? useEffect is going to get called again. It's going to go ahead and fetch. It's going to do the response.json. It's going to get the result. It's going to again set the post, meaning updating the state. Then again it's going to get called. You can see that it's going to get called again and again and again and again forever. What I want you to do, I want you to type this code exactly as it is and try to run it and see what happens. You will see that you are constantly making this fetch request, and even your browser may get stuck or frozen and your computer will start like churning, meaning it's basically saying that please stop, something is going in repetition, like some sort of recursion is happening, please stop. Now there is a second argument of useEffect, which we haven't even done anything with it. The second argument is an array, and in the array we can pass in the state which when change will call the useEffect again. So in other words, if I pass in post, which is the local state, which is this one, this means that I'm saying that, yeah, go ahead and fire useEffect for the first time when the app component is loaded, mounted. So call all of that. And you should also call everything inside the useEffect when anything changes over here in the array. And you can see we are actually changing it right here. This means that we are updating the post local state. Whenever the post local state is changed, then because we have this dependency, which is right here, useEffect is going to call again. So the useEffect is going to call first time when the app component is loaded, it's going to call a make a request. And the second time, there's a dependency. If the post local state changes, then or updated, then you call useEffect again. Now, do you think we are looking at another loop that is going to go forever? Think about it for a minute. useEffect, the second argument is a dependency, which is basically saying that useEffect function should be called, everything that's inside the function should happen when this local state is updated. So the local state is getting updated on line number 14 because we're updating it. And there is a dependency, so it's going to call it again and again and again. Again, we are stuck in that kind of a weird loop. But if you put an empty array over here, you are basically saying that useEffect is not going to get called again because there is no dependency. It's only going to call once. Always remember that useEffect is being used as a replacement to two different functions. One is component did mount and component did update. And that's why we are providing the second argument as nothing, as empty array, which is saying that no, just useEffect is just going to call once and that's it, because there is no other dependency. All right. So now finally we set the post, we update the post array or a state, and we can go over here and create some sort of a user interface. So I'm just going to say over here post items equals to post, which is the local state dot map, and I can map over it and I can return some sort of a user interface. So let's go ahead and say that I want to return li, and inside the li maybe I can go ahead and say post.title. I don't know if there is a title available. Let's go ahead and check it out. Yeah, there is a title. And now we can go ahead and print it out somewhere. So let's go over here. We can print anywhere you want. I'm just going to go at the bottom and print out post items. It will be a good idea to put it inside a UL because we are printing out the actual LIs. So I'm just going to copy this and print out inside a UL. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and format this. Let's see, format document. There we go. And let's go ahead and save it and see what happens. And there we go. We are able to display all of these different things. Now there is a warning, and the warning is the same as before. We are displaying a list, but we are not providing a key to make them distinguish between different elements. We already know how to fix that. I'm just going to go over here, provide a key, and I believe post has an ID, and let's save it. Let's double check this ID. There's ID right there. And there we go. Warning is gone, and we are able to display all the different items. Now, one more thing that you should try on your own is how would you display the body? Right now, I'm just displaying the title, right? These titles. So what if I want to display the title, and right after the title I want to display the body, then the title, then the body, and so on. So kind of like this, title and then the body, title and then the body. How would you do that? And also play around with useEffect, because you will be using it all the time when you are building your React applications.